4.1. I think Director Martell, would you like to provide this opening report since this was your item? Thank you. By the way, for your confidence.
I would be glad to. So the nominating committee, made up of my colleague, the board secretary, Dr. Halverson, and I, conferred on the upcoming election of a new board chair. And after considerable discussion,
It was lengthy.
it was quite
Sure.
lengthy in trying to determine who would be a suitable candidate or candidates to put forward.
Sure.
For the board to consider. We have, in fact, come up with a single candidate.
But he wasn't available.
But doesn't he need to be reelected to the board too?
Yes,
Yes.
this is not just the office,
We
but
assumed
it's the
certain things.
membership. Yeah, it's not just the office.
It is a 4-year
4 years?
Wow.
Quite the
As long as
commitment.
you both are sticking around.
Quite the
4-year
commitment.
membership on the board, to be followed by consideration for election as the potential chair. So based on our conferring over this issue at length, I sent the board our recommendation, and that is that we recommend for another 4-year membership, Mr. James Lewis.
Wow.
Oh, thank you very much.
So
That's a surprise.
You never know.
So with the understanding that it could be likely that he would be reelected, then we would move forward with nominating him as the chair of the board.
Hot in here now.
I have a question.
Yes.
How long did this considerable consideration take?
Oh,
Hours.
quite a long
It
time.
would be
Days.
hard to tell. It was so lengthy.
So with that, I would like to see if there's any motion to accept the recommendation of the nominating committee to elect Mr. James Lewis for another 4-year term.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, sir.
Or
I'll second.
support the committee's, whatever the legal term is. I'll do that.
Second.
In a second. So the motion was by Member Siegel, and the second was by Member Sutherland. All those in favor? Should we do a formal
Secret
vote
vote.
on this?
We
I
should.
think
I
so.
think it should be
A roll call vote.
Roll call
A
vote.
roll call
I think we
vote.
should.
She didn't want to, I might be seen vote for him.
I
You
like
guys are doing a thorough job of embarrassing me. I don't want to go through this again. That's my last term.
Although it's fellow Trojans, I guess we
Oh, God.
should be kind to you.
You want to do a
You're
roll
making
call
your
vote?
most
Yes,
of
we'll
this
do a roll
moment.
call.
All right, I'll just go down the line this way. Member Sutherland?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Did you see that? Okay.
Hesitation.
He knows.
Member Siegel?
Yes.
Okay, Secretary
Yeah,
Halverson?
okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
Lewis, yes.
You
Holmes?
don't want to.
I suppose so, yes.
All right, and Martell?
To make it unanimous, yes.
Wow.
They wrote right side. I'm gonna go outside.
That's awesome.
Oh cow! All right. Dude, it's embarrassing.
Hey, Jim, thank you very much for all your work on this.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate
It's,
the
it's,
support.
no, it's really
Hey, guys,
Thank you,
seriously,
important
let
work.
Ralph
It's
talk.
not a joke.
Thank you.
It's serious work. It's important work. And I
I
appreciate
love
all
it.
your efforts.
Thank you, guys. I love it. I love that you continue to serve as well. It's a privilege. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
So in light of Member Lewis being reelected to the board, I now would like to entertain nomination on the committee's recommendation that Mr. Lewis be selected as the chair of the board. So do we have a
There you go.
motion for that?
Vote.
Second?
Second.
Moved by Halverson and seconded by Siegel.
Oh, okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
You guys are something else.
Congratulations, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you. Oh, I'm glad that happens once every 4 years. I appreciate everybody's confidence, and I appreciate.
You all red. You're
I
like,
am all red. Jeez. Well, we didn't ask for members of the public to comment. We probably should do that real quick. Are there any members of the public that wish
If
to
they
speak?
disagree, I can shoot
Did we
them.
just-
Yeah, we did.
Okay, hearing no members of the public, we will move on to thank you all. I appreciate your service, especially. It's great. We do have some neat things going here.
Yeah.
Okay, board meetings, 24-25. We have a, wow, calendar here, you can see. We are making a little suggestion on a shift, as you can see here. So Liz or Jenny, do you want to walk us through that again and remind us?
Liz did all the work on this. So I
This
love
has to do with some of the paperwork and staff scheduling too. So why don't you walk us through this?
Yes, so historically, in the last few years, the board has met 7 times. And some of those have 2 meetings in quick succession, like in January, the strategic planning and the business meeting. And then in June, there is the presentation and public hearings of the LCAP and the budget, and then the adoption has to happen at a subsequent separate meeting. So there's kind of 5 time periods that the board has met. But several years ago, the board used to not meet at the beginning of the school year in August. So there was a question of whether that meeting timeframe should continue, if it's really necessary. So that was kind of one that was slated. And then you all had moved the spring meeting, previously usually held kind of at the end of March, to April for this year. So just kind of wanted to make sure there was a discussion about how that has gone. Is that something that you all wanted to continue for next year, moving the spring meeting later? And then there had also been some questions about the January timing. There are some required things that must be taken action on by the board before the end of January. However, there were some questions about whether the bulk of that meeting or some elements of that meeting could be moved to a later date. And I believe Executive Director Gaskell had some comments about that as well, just because after coming back from winter break and things like that, it is sometimes a heavy lift to get everything prepared for the January meeting. So we have some proposed dates here, just based on the calendar. Obviously, these are open for discussion and moving if necessary, but if the board was to hold a meeting in August, historically it's been on the Friday at the end of the teacher work week when the teachers come back. So that might be an option, but you all could decide to not hold a formal board meeting at that time, because it's usually we don't have many action items.
Yeah, and the last couple of years, you've just been saying hi and introducing yourselves, so it doesn't need to be a formal board meeting. We might just want 1 or 2 of you to address the staff. I mean, the last couple of years, it's been virtual anyway. It's just
I don't
shifted
have a
from what
need
it
to do
used to
that.
do.
Are you
So,
guys
and we
okay?
don't have many action items, so.
The meeting, if there is one, it's August 23rd.
Yes, teachers come back on the 19th.
Like, I won't be here.
I wouldn't be
We'll
here.
be traveling, so.
Okay. So you guys can address staff at any number of our first staff
Yeah.
meetings virtually, and just, we can arrange that so that Chairman Lewis can say hi.
That'd be great.
The beginning of the school year, we tend to have more pivot-wide meetings, which are all staff, because there's all kinds of new stuff going on. Those are generally speaking Wednesday afternoons. So we can include you on that, and we can plan that rather than having a full board meeting.
Okay, so let's pass on the 23rd. The more of us that can call in through the week though, or
Yeah.
be present, is great.
Yeah.
That's terrific. And then, I didn't look.
So the 23rd is not going to be a board meeting,
Correct.
but potentially,
Yeah, I think maybe even later we'll have you guys introduce you, because again, we have lots of pivot-wide meetings, and that's a busy week, and we have all kinds of new people, and they're kind of getting sprayed with the fire hose of information. So I think it would be better if you guys joined at a later date in the fall
okay.
at a pivot-wide meeting.
So the 23rd is not going to happen.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then after that time, usually the next meeting is sort of the first Saturday in November. But there's always a possibility to move that meeting a little bit sooner, like end of October. I think we might have done that once or twice.
That Saturday works for me. What
Yeah,
about
works for me.
other people?
Fine with me.
You're talking about the
November
second.
2nd.
Mhm.
How does that look for folks?
Just good on my iPad.
Yeah.
You know, my battery's dying. Yours doesn't. Your iPad's looking pretty good right now.
Go ahead, make fun.
You guys
No,
take a
I'm saying your iPad's looking
Steve, you
pretty
have
good.
to take a
Okay.
picture of that for Steve.
Yeah, sure.
Switch out to mother iPad. Reserve iPad. Okay,
Okay, so
great. That's good. And then this was the shift, right? This should work, needs to work for you guys. So you wanted to push back January, right?
So there are some complications with that because the school accountability report card has to be adopted or approved by the board before the end of January, as does the audit report has to be approved or accepted, certified by the board before the end of January. So those two items, if it was still going to be a 2-meeting session with the strategic planning and the business meeting, we could potentially move it to Friday and Saturday, January 31st and February 1st. We would just have to have a few action items on the 31st to make that deadline. I believe we may have done that once before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Jen, there
that
was
makes
something
sense.
that came up this year that you said, we gotta try to make this later if we can. And I forget, it was your schedule and it was ours too.
I'm trying to, it was more, I thought you had reports that you were really pushing against and you're like, why do we?
I mean, yeah, on our end, it's coming back from the holidays, it's tough, but,
I don't know.
it was
Well, I
something
know,
that
I
you
know,
said,
but-
yeah, absolutely, and there was something that,
I don't know.
anyway,
That's
it's
not a
not,
problem for me that weekend.
yeah, it's not
Anybody
a,
else?
it's not a
Which
deal
week, which
breaker.
week are we saying?
31st and 1st.
I don't know. I don't have, my iPad doesn't go past.
But you would know if you have any big travels.
I,
You're not
if
cruising.
I had thought about it, I would have bought a schedule, but I don't. We have several trips going in.
Are they even printing a 25 calendar yet? Curious.
Yeah, they are.
They are?
See what I put up with?
No, I'm just curious.
Are
I'm
they
just,
printing a 25
curious.
calendar yet?
well, let's try the 31st. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
And that helps staff a little bit. So let's try that. Okay.
There had been some years previously where the meeting was held like on the Saturday of that
3-day
3-day weekend, like the MLK weekend, which was in the middle of
That's when we
January.
used to
That's
do it, but
really-
that's
Yeah,
too early.
That's, yeah, they
So,
don't want to do that.
If we can push it to the.
Plus traveling when everyone else is traveling is
Yeah.
no fun,
Right.
so.
Okay.
And the next one, Saturday, March 29th is kind of historically where the spring meeting has been. However, this time it got moved to mid-April, so depending on how you all feel that timing has been. I added April 12th as a potential option. And obviously.
That's so
there's-
far out, I don't,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's April 5th in between there, that's also an option. The other thing with the spring meeting that is sometimes difficult is it often coincides with
Spring
spring
break.
breaks.
Oh,
So you'll
okay.
be here, but none of the staff will be here because they're on spring break sometimes. So having it at this later April.
So for
time-
like that 12th is our spring break.
you don't want to do that.
Yeah, the 12th won't work for me.
Yeah.
April
So
12th.
that's why it's good though. This isn't too far out for me. I mean, I appreciate
Yeah,
that you're
yeah.
doing this. And Pat, I know you have a very
Mhm.
big travel schedule for work.
So,
Okay, so March 29th.
Or April 5th. I didn't put April 5th on here, but it's definitely an option.
That is an option. Anybody? Steve, OJ, you guys
At the
so
moment,
far out?
book it, and I will make sure nobody else books it or.
and what's North Bay's, should I flip the,
It's in March.
oh, it is.
It's in March.
How about we try for the 4th and 5th? Give you guys a little time. So we get more
Yeah.
space for the other meetings, probably better. Okay.
And then the last meetings, the large business meeting, usually is kind of the first weekend of June at right around the last day of school, which is in graduation. So theoretically, June 7th would fit that time frame. So the last day of school is planned to be June 6th. And if North Bay graduation is held on that day, it could be potentially full board attendance,
That'd be cool, that hasn't happened in a while.
June 6th?
I have a conflict on the 7th.
June 6th and 7th.
Oh, you do? What,
I have a golf game that day.
could graduation be on June 6th though?
Just depends on whether the venue's available, right, Travis?
That would be nice to be
Yeah.
present. We've been here for a long
I
time.
know. As a full board, yeah.
What, are you traveling, OJ?
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be nice to be up here for that graduation.
Yeah.
Pat, how you look at that weekend? Is that,
So far the 7th seems okay for me.
You know, there's a conference as well.
well, we
that's
have one
annual.
this year, that week. Is that becoming a typical week for this summer?
Yes. It's not going to be in California though, so
Next year?
yeah, so it might require travel. We haven't determined the
Okay.
exact dates yet, but so far I don't have anything.
Well, let's try that, just to shoot for being up here for graduation. Sorry, OJ, that would be important for us to be here for that.
And
Okay,
then
let's
like you all
hold that
did
for
this
now.
year, it can always be adjusted.
So it's
and then-
over a year out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Obtuse.
yeah. So tentatively,
Okay.
and then the short meeting just to officially adopt the budget and LCAPs.
Yeah.
You've
Great.
had on like a Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah, we'll
in
just
the
do that,
past.
right.
So I would recommend Thursday, June 12th, since that's the one right after the June 7th
Oh.
meeting. Or
Okay.
potentially Tuesday, the 10th would also.
That's so far out on it during
But,
the
you know,
weekend.
Yeah, right?
You guys settle down in this?
So
that's good.
June 12th, did you say?
If that's all right, we can have that be the tentative
Okay.
date, and
That
then
works.
we'll revise later. Normally, I know you all have this conversation in June, but there was a request to kind of get it done a little bit earlier so that we would know what to expect. for
So the
fall.
June 12th is just a call.
Yes,
Yes.
the teleconference.
Okay, and you have a time for that?
Believe
I'm not even that far out.
historical has been. Let's say it's been around 11 a.m. has been the
Okay, I just-
Well,
I
that's-
just- I
But it's
just-
super flexible since it's teleconference.
Yeah, I just want to put
Yeah.
something on my schedule for doing it.
Okay, great.
Wow.
Any members of the public wish to speak? It's good to get those set.
and-
And it gives us enough time that if something needs to move, we can, but for now, that's good.
And we can draft the official scheduled document and, I don't know, does it need action to approve at the June meeting perhaps?
Yeah.
We can just use this
Yeah.
information to create the calendar and.
Okay,
document at the-
so that was just a scheduling item, okay. So we're not taking official action on this. Okay,
Under action items.
Discussion item.
Yeah,
But-
you could take action.
We could.
well, why
It's
not?
under
Are there
discussion.
any members of the public that wish to address this item? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, then I'll ask, why not? Let's for a motion to set the board calendar for 2024-25.
So moved.
No,
Thank you. No,
Go to objection.
I don't like those dates.
I'll second Pat's motion. You don't like the dates? You want to wait till you have your calendar?
Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Go
Wait till you have your
Ask what
calendar.
Ralph's wants, ask what
Aye.
Okay, motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Eh.
Wow. Okay, item 4.3, I think that was a 4-0-1 vote, or 5-0-1, I'm not sure. What was your vote? Yes on the bacon? Okay. 4.3,
Yes.
okay, record retention and disposal policy. Liz.
Okay, and Brittany as well is here for this one. She and I worked on this, and our assistant Nicole also worked on this as well. So big thanks to everybody who had a hand in it, including our attorneys. Our attorneys had recommended a revised, very comprehensive record retention and disposal policy based on all the legislative, changes and updates and best practices and things like that. And so we bring this to you for consideration today. So this policy was generated by our attorneys, and we modified it to include the appropriate names and titles and everything. But it does contain information about both physical records as well as electronic records of many different types. It does make this policy it's an official board adopted policy to govern what records should be retained or disposed of and on what timelines. If there are changes recommended to this policy in the future, they would need to be brought back to you for consideration. And it does name Executive Director Jana Gaskell as the person responsible for making sure this policy is implemented and maintained and reviewed periodically, and changes brought to you. So it's, as I mentioned, quite comprehensive. It includes some contingency things, such as if there were ever to be any kind of legal proceeding, there's like a freeze on disposing of records to make sure that everything is retained and things like that. It does contain guidance for emails and things like that, which records are permanent. And it's very comprehensive as far as, corporate documents, financial things like in payroll and accounts payable, as well as independent study documents, student records, contracts, insurance. It goes through kind of the whole gamut of records here.
That's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
No, nothing to add. It is very comprehensive and will be really great going forward.
I do have a question about the donor lists, since we have very few donors. It's not really critical at the moment, but it will be down the road. 7 years, I would really recommend that you keep them forever. It will help somebody down the road if they're trying to figure stuff out and was a donor back in the good old days. Somebody's going to want that, and if they don't have
It's really
access,
helpful.
they will be cursing our names.
It's really helpful.
So make that
And
change.
And part of it is, I know that it's that the physical list and then the electronic. I would keep the electronic as detailed as possible forever as well. Now, there may be a legal reason not to. I'm not aware of it.
You can follow up with the attorneys, but I doubt it.
You can always do more
Yeah.
than the law minimum, right?
Yes,
I
sure.
mean, so that makes
But
sense.
the lawyers may say, oh, you don't want to keep that for X, Y, Z reason. I've never experienced that, so.
So these are kept at our corporate office in Chico, is that in your office, and you're our official corporate secretary, right? Who's-
Yeah.
Custodian of records.
Yeah,
And
not
yes.
official, but
Well, yes, actually, Brittany is listed on
Oh,
our
that's right.
statement of
Yeah,
information to
statement
the
of
state.
As
the
corporate
official-
secretary, that's what I thought, okay.
Correct.
Yeah, they're all housed at the corporate office.
So ultimately, you're but you're
Yeah.
responsible for, yeah, okay,
Yes.
we're not housing them in Truckee.
right, and how do we, no, I don't, how do we back up, do we have a good backup for our servers and all of our, we're starting to, I mean, what,
Some
this
of
begs
the-
that question, right?
Yes,
Now,
yes.
because we're accepting a responsibility, that we're gonna keep all these things, and we're
Yes,
gonna have these
and
things.
We have another version of this with lots of comments that are, to-do items. So there are some records that are currently only in hard copy paper form or only in electronic form that we want to make sure we have double, some redundancy there. The issue with the servers and things like that is most of our information is on servers that we don't have.
Well, it's like
our own
Google
servers.
Docs, we keep a lot of stuff on property.
Yes, so like Google Docs, our student information system, they have very comprehensive backup procedures. And we have had actually instances where we had to ask them, hey, can you go back to, pull the server back up from a month ago because something weird happened in our student information system and we need that data to be re-uploaded. So we make sure that our partners.
Well, it says Google, I just want to make sure that we're not relying on some corporate, like, for our organization, we have a lot of stuff in the cloud. We actually pay for it and have, different retentions and second backups, and Google Docs can say, oh, you're at your max storage, or you haven't touched a file in 5 years or blowing it out. You're like, well, wait, so I just want to make sure we've looked at all that.
Well, and due to the nature of the type of documents that I'm custodian of records for, I don't put them in Google. Those are housed both physically and electronically, and then I have backup for that as well. It's not on an internet platform. And so I think once this is reviewed and approved, like Liz said, there's a bunch of notes about which types of documents and making sure we have both physical and electronic copies backed up.
And our backup should be in two physical places. So, for example, if it's backed up in Chico, it should be backed up in Riverside, or even just in case a fire, God forbid, we've seen that go through or whatever else, you know.
You want physical documents in both places?
No, electronic.
Okay.
No, electronic.
We get a filing system. We used to have a whole
No, you can't do
wall, but nobody ever cleaned them out. Because why go back, it's 7 years, and I took it on one time, before a board meeting, just go and take full personnel files that were 20 years old. But they just kept getting bigger. And nobody touched them, so it does become, from a physical sense, a big issue after a while.
Great thought through.
Are there any other recommendations for changes other than the donor lists being moved to permanent?
Very comprehensive. Any other comments from board members?
No, it's a lot.
It is a lot. I sit on Charter Safe's board and they just did
Oh, that's right.
this as well, which is different than a charter school. Like I sent Liz and Brittany everything from Charter Safe. They're like, yeah, this doesn't address half the stuff that we have to, because it's educating students. But it's, theirs is, 90 pages long too. So it's just, the wave of the future. We have to make sure we're tracking all this.
Okay. Any member of the public wish to speak on item 4.3? Seeing none? None online?
Wait, but Scott.
Yeah.
Employee new letters and handbooks, permanent? Some of this stuff, you can do what you want, obviously, but it's on here. But some of those things, like, are you kidding me? A couple of years old and goodbye. It's like everything.
My little hard drive here has everything from
I
my
don't care.
first charter school in 1998.
Wow.
Whatever, that's.
And I think the reasoning behind that one is, you never know if someone were to have an issue that they bring up years down the line, and you want to know what your employment policies and practices were at that time they were employed, you would have access
Yeah,
to
the employee
show
manual is the biggie.
that they signed off, that they received
It's
it.
a safeguard to prove what our policies were at the time and what we communicated to staff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, sure. That's gonna be really helpful. Whatever.
So this was designed to be a first read. If you all are feeling good and would like to approve the policy with the one change, we could do that, or we could bring it back in June if there's any other, if anyone wants to sit with it for longer.
What is your preference? Yes, OJ.
Question,
Yes.
the attorneys that drafted this,
Yes.
are they experienced in doing this?
Well,
Yes.
That's a key question.
It's a great question.
And references about that, about their history.
So our law firm that did draft this is specifically, their clientele is only charter schools, so they're very well versed in the laws that apply to charter schools as an employer and as a school organization.
Okay.
So yes, they have very extensive experience with the education code as well as the labor code and all the various
Okay.
federal and state requirements.
Okay. Is the board comfortable adopting this, or do you want to come back in June? Think
I'm
about it.
comfortable, yeah.
Then I would ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, Ms. Martell, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good job. That was a comprehensive document for
It
sure.
It's huge, the work that they put into this.
All right, this next item, 4.4, is something I think we're all interested in. That we discussed in January. So Liz, why don't you present your
Yes.
discussion of the local agency investment fund?
Yes,
I'm very familiar with it.
And I do have an update. It's hot off the presses from just this last week after the board meeting documents were finalized. That we did hear back from the LAIF regarding the eligibility of roads education. And they did say they believe we would qualify as a quasi-governmental agency. But in order for that to take place, it has to go before their board. And their board will
Really?
not meet until the fall. So it will be several months before eligibility could be formally
How
approved
weird.
for roads education.
I mean, quasi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's the fact that since we're a
Hell.
I love
nonprofit
that.
corporation
Quasi.
that operates charter schools, so they looked at the bylaws.
Oh.
and
How dare
everything.
you, how dare you call us?
So, yes,
Because it's roads education organization that would be investing.
correct.
All right, I have a question. Well, not even tell, but how does the money get there? Because if it's coming out of all these different counties, I'm assuming that's where it's all coming out. How do they allow us, or
duffel bags for.
I was gonna say Pony Express,
Do
but I
they
didn't
allow
go there.
such things? I don't know what the rules are with counties and charter schools.
So I have two documents here that are from the LIAF, and once eligibility is approved by their board, these documents would need to be authorized by you all. And it does have in here, this is to create an account with the local agency investment fund. There is a place where you list the banking information that will essentially create a link between the roads education checking account, essentially, and the LAIF.
Yeah, 'cause you call
Electronic
1-800, give me my
transfers.
money, and they transfer it with like 24 hours.
How much do we normally have in there? So check, what's in there right now?
What's in there right now is about $1 million.
No small,
No small change.
no.
What's the return with these guys? I mean, the normal, I looked at it, it was.
Oh, it's usually, it usually tracks the treasury bill. I mean,
That's
it's right
right,
in
the
there.
one I saw looked like
Yeah,
that.
it's right in there.
So in here, they have various reports on.
Yeah, I saw one of them that showed it was about like a treasury bill.
Yeah.
Like the city of Atascadero currently has probably a little more than I want, but half our money in here. So we have about 35 million.
So they have the quarterly apportionment rates here, and it's for all the way back from 1977 when it began, and you can see how it's changed. So it has gone up and then it has gone down.
Way down.
Uh-huh.
It's laggard though. That's the thing. Like in an environment where, yeah, you can see this.
Yeah, so we're currently,
But see how laggy it is, even in 2023, 2.74. It takes a while to catch up. But you're
so it's generally a little less than current rates are for certificates of deposit or high yield savings.
So if you were to do this, can we normally have around $1 million in the bank?
In recent years, yes.
What would be, how much would you be suggesting to put into this?
It depends on the time of the school year, because we do have expense somewhat heavily
Right.
front-loaded to, buy supplies and curriculum and everything like that at the start of the fiscal year. So it could be 500,000.
at least. Because this is liquid. This is
average?
totally liquid. So you literally call before the close of business and say, I want
Well,
blank
you're thinking of
dollars, and it's there the next day.
Payroll issues going on, you gotta make sure you cover yourself.
Yes, and we
It's
do
gotta cover
2
it.
payroll runs a month. They're generally about 200,000.
Yeah, so you keep a month of cash handy and then put the rest in this.
And accounts payable,
Mhm.
everything like
Can you
that.
move it
so-
in and out in a daily basis?
Yes.
Yes, they
Daily.
do cap the number of transactions you can do in a month, I believe. I'm not sure what
So
that
10?
is, but it's more than we would.
Yeah. Literally daily. You can,
All right, what's wrong with this idea? Come on, there's gotta be something.
I don't think there's anything
No,
wrong.
there's nothing wrong
Well,
with this.
It's the preeminent place for governments to put their money.
Anybody
Yeah,
says so,
that's
they
what
try
you
to
do.
run it, they're lying.
The only time I've ever questioned Leif and Pat, I'm sure you can back this, was when the state was cash crunched back in like 01 or 2 or something back then. And I'll be darned, a lot of us, they froze Leif for like a day or something. And that freaked everybody out because it was like, are they going to take our money?
Right.
Because it's under the treasurer, the state has access to the dollars. And that kind of freaked everybody out. So that, I guess you could argue that
That's interesting.
you're
So-
banking on the credit and faith of the state of California with this
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, the one thing that,
You can always take the money out though. I mean, like if you feel comfortable with the state, you can take it out.
Take it out.
But
My only thing with like COVID or whatever, never could happen, but it did. And my only thing, you had the Orange County bankruptcy, where we were frozen. Man, I know that's highly unusual, but these things can occur. They're very rare, obviously. And we were
Yes.
frozen for several months. And it was, where the heck are you gonna make payroll on? Because you didn't have the money. Because we was invested in some of these situations.
right,
So I mean, there's always a risk, no matter where you got to be in the
I
bank.
mean, we could bury it in the ground.
What kind of, well, is that kind of a thing,
Yeah, I mean, like, what are we gonna do?
Well, in the Depression, that's what they did. They said. we're
You remember
going
that,
to-
That's right.
You recall that, huh?
You set yourself up for that.
Why is he picking on me that I would know that I was there at the time? All right, so,
But
the
you're right. No,
the
you're
Yeah.
return we get currently at the bank is
nothing.
zero.
nothing or
It's
zero?
Zero for
Zero.
my checking account.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why have we not bought any CDs?
Because the board has to authorize that. We are not allowed to do that of our own discretion. So the board would have to, and that was one of the
Our
options
cash though,
presented
I'd be
in January.
nervous about that, especially like in a situation where the state has a deficit and all. I mean, these deferrals, all of a sudden, we're not gonna pay your P1 till 2025. We're like, our cash this is instant 24-hour access.
Yeah.
So I do
Um,
have colleagues that run charter schools that have very short-term CDs.
Right, you can get them month to month.
Yeah, but it still ties your money up, you know, but they do that.
You
Some
could
of
buy
them
a monthly ladder.
Yeah.
If every month something was coming due. That's
Yeah.
true.
So
I mean,
I
all
found-
like school, I mean, in a credit union, that's the normal. You can pick
Yeah.
a 4-year, 3-year, 2, or it's month to month or whatever it is.
So I've spoken with a lot of people in charter school, CBOs, as well as, banking people and people at our charter school organizations like CCSA and CSDC. And no one had heard of LAIF in
Yeah.
the charter school.
That's
world,
amazing.
Except
Not
for
yet.
Eric
That is
Premack,
weird.
who runs the
Of course.
Charter School Development Center because he knows everything in Sacramento. So,
That
but
is
it-
amazing to me that nobody knew about this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
me as well.
my
Yeah.
counterpart,
But-
one of the larger ones, she just has she does the short-term CDs, and she has a high yielding savings account,
Yeah.
and she's making $1 million off her money every year.
So
Close
what
to
I
it.
was gonna say is the norm. Everyone, they're like, what's LAIF? We do CDs, we do T-bill ladders, we do money market accounts, we do high yield savings accounts. That's the norm in the California
Interesting.
charter schools industry.
Okay.
So that's,
So we're breaking ground.
the one downside that I had someone they were from a bank, and I'm sure they wanted us to bank with them, but one of their thoughts was if no charter schools are using LAIF, there's gotta be a reason. And my thought was, well, is there really
No.
a reason, or is it just that they don't know about it?
They're
Or
not familiar
already
with it.
They don't-
utilizing
yeah,
it?
They don't have
They're
members
just
on
not
their board
familiar
that are in that world.
Exactly. There is one thing that is, it's a finer point, but with something like a certain money market accounts and high yield savings accounts, you can secure FDIC insurance up to like
Yes.
$2 million if it's done appropriately. And I had someone ask me about, LAIF and its protection of principal, and is there any danger to principal if the market goes down? If can you incur losses? And so I asked that question to LAIF what their insurance was, essentially, and they don't really have any.
Right.
So there is a possibility for losses, although if you look at their apportionment, schedule here, there is no negative quarter. So it has not happened where they have, taken losses in a way that made it so they couldn't grant
Scroll back
some
up to
sort of.
The column headers, if you would, please. I just want to see what we're talking about.
Quarters, I think,
Yeah,
fiscal.
the quarter.
Oh, I see, got it.
So they apportion their
Huh.
earnings back to account holders.
1977.
And they, of course, have to, shave their costs, operating costs off the top before they decide how much they can disperse to the account holders. So there is some cost, but it kind of happens behind the scenes before they.
Yeah, they shave it out of this. And these aren't the best returns. That's what I always share with our city treasurer. You have to beat LAIF. Like if we're getting less than LAIF, we really are terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a bottom of the barrel, easy, liquid, vanilla investment portfolio.
And it's quite conservative, the information that I got from Eric Premack about, sort of the risk level of LAIF. He was like, it's, they're very conservative. It's largely, securities and things that are not considered risky. So his advice had said, if you want to maximize your returns, then he would recommend something, like CD ladders or, that other charter schools do. But if you're going for something that you want to not have to actively manage, like a T-bill ladder or a CD ladder,
I think that's the benefit of this.
That is the benefit, it's easy.
Yeah.
it's a great way to
Yeah.
do it.
Definitely.
Yeah. So he did recommend that it would be a prudent investment that meets the requirements of, kind of being custodians of public funds, as you all are. And it was designed for that purpose for local governments. So
Did he say why more people hadn't done it?
I think it was just kind of several charter schools already take advantage of it through their county treasury account.
Yeah.
And their county
Yeah.
treasury is
Yeah.
invested in this. So, for example, our county treasury accounts for San Diego and Riverside, I don't know for certain what their mix, of investments and interest generating investment tools are, but I believe Lake is one of them.
What's the report?
So yes, the financial policies and procedures upon closer inspection, and so that's the next item here. There was information about banking and bank accounts, but not investment
Investments, yeah, I
accounts.
saw that.
So that'll be the next item is, if you all did want to move forward with Lake,
Well-
to revise those to include some guidance about investment accounts and how those should be managed, opened, closed, operated, overseen. And then there are these Lake documents that if the board agrees and would direct us to work with Lake to get this on their agenda to consider roads education for eligibility, they would be able to do that at their fall meeting. And
I didn't
then-
know they had a board. I thought just the state treasurer ran it. That's interesting.
There isn't full.
Yeah, it's the,
Oh.
I can't remember if it's a Lake board, it's the LAIB.
Interesting.
Forget
It's okay.
Their acronym, but, yeah, they have their own board, and I believe the state treasurer is on it, but there's kind
That
of.
would make sense.
Hmm.
I'll make a motion.
To
Second.
continue to pursue LAIF.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry, who was the second?
Me.
Pat.
Martel.
Thank you. Great homework. So then item 4.5 has to do with an amendment to the financial policies, creating this authority to invest our resources, particularly on page 5 of 9. You'll see there's a whole portion on investments. Liz, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So looking at the previous language here, was largely just about banking and general checking accounts. And there was something that said, invested, that funds could be invested or deposited in non-speculative federally backed instruments and things like that, or money market accounts. But LAIF is not really any of those specific things. And it's not really a general checking account, which is the section that description is in. And so we were advised to create a new section about investment accounts. So as Chairman Lewis mentioned, it's down here on page 5. And so this is kind of a first read, and we're asking for feedback on the wording, and also just the individuals that you would like to see named in these places. This is, again, just a first draft, and it's based on having, further up in this document, there are certain authorized signers named, and I believe those are the chairman, secretary, and executive director, or the authorized signers on the bank accounts and things like that. So the board would have to authorize the opening of any investment accounts, which is in line with other procedures for bank accounts. And then someone obviously needs to manage it on a day-to-day basis to make sure we have enough cash in our checking account to do payroll, pay our bills and things like that. And so that's where the section comes in, kind of saying that, the executive director and or chief business officer shall evaluate operating cash at least quarterly and transfer funds. It'll really be more on a monthly basis.
I had a question on that one I mentioned before. On C, is it C1?
Mhm.
Yeah. It says the board chairman, so forth, shall be named as the authorized authority to manage transactions. And then it goes on, the executive director shall manage. It sort of says both are managing.
Yes, so that
Is
might be a good.
what, is it one or the other, or? I don't
No, we're
know,
not
I get it.
managing.
No, I get the intent, but it doesn't make any sense to me in some ways as to what is the purpose of
Got it.
officers there. So they talk like they're both gonna do it.
It should be like authorizing the transactions. You
Yeah,
should
so-
manage it.
This form to create an account with LAIF requires the name and people who are authorized to say, we want to transfer money from the checking account to LAIF or from LAIF to the checking account. So, so we need to make sure that those individuals are chosen and name.
No, understood, but I
as
think
you
Tom's point is
They
good.
both-
It
they
should
both
be,
say manage.
it should be
Yeah.
authorization to the authority to authorize transactions, and
Manage.
then you guys shall manage the movement of funds.
Yeah.
Like that would be, see that,
wish.
It's actually
This one
authorized.
Right here, this manage should be,
I don't know, it'd be distinct, right now they look like they're the same.
right.
So like, it's almost like losing church, almost in a way.
Uh-huh.
so I took it as one of them, if I were one of them, when we were moving, because this is
Oh,
gonna be
yeah.
something that kind of ebbs and flows consistently, you're moving money
Yeah.
in
So
and
what
out.
purpose did that officer have in this, once we approve the due late or whatever it is? Then, but this still mentions us, why are we even mentioned?
I listed all of the authorized signers because I thought it would be appropriate to include all of them in addition to
Or
Jana
like
and
a
myself,
just
who
in
would
case type
likely.
thing, or
Sorry?
like a just in case where needed, I mean, I don't.
Yes, yes. So, I would maybe propose, what about if we change this word to initiate transactions?
I don't know what that means.
Or
either.
execute
No,
transactions?
no, you don't want us doing that, because you're gonna call literally 1-800-LAFE and say, I need 50 grand for payroll tomorrow, and you don't need to call us for that. I mean, I think it's okay that we all are.
It implies
named.
I have to approve it too,
Mhm.
to some degree. We're all named.
Yes.
The officers are named and you two are named separately. So it implies to some degree, you have to get authorization from us to do your thing, which is crazy.
No, because I think it's good to have multiple people, because God forbid something happened to them in a car or something, and we need to move
Yes.
money out of LAFE, you and I can do that.
So
I think it's
So-
okay.
What I don't want to happen is for us to only name
No,
Jana and me on
Oh, yeah.
this form.
Right,
We
I
want
get it.
to have the
I
board
get it.
as
I just see two
authorized.
sentences
That
with the
makes
same
sense.
authorization abilities. So, you can do what you want, but I mean, whatever
Yes.
works. But if you like it,
I think you can authorize the manage, that makes sense, the four of us can authorize a transaction, but as far as the management and movement of the funds, it's you two.
all right.
I don't see the conflict.
I
It says
don't
manage in
either.
both steps.
Well,
No, he was
So
right to point
therefore-
that out.
No, it's true. It
One
says
is-
manage it in both sections. So I say, like you said, maybe change. it.
Authorize.
Authorize, like the
Yeah.
other word.
Well, we just, as authorized agents with the authority to authorize transactions. that's it.
Say approve,
Redundant.
approve, but we don't, we shouldn't manage it.
No.
Okay.
That implies an active, we're passive.
Mhm.
So
And maybe you have to have it for them, okay, good, whatever. but,
Right.
you know,
Well-
yeah.
So if something were to happen and the executive director and chief business officer are no longer able to communicate to LAFE, but can somehow communicate to you two,
Us, yeah.
I don't know how that would happen.
Yeah.
Never mind. That's a bad scenario.
No, this is not.
It's more,
Erase that.
it's more of an internet
Steve,
thing
have
I'm
a
thinking of.
drink, Steve.
Yeah.
No, I think for their accountability, it's important that we can call LAFE and look in.
Yeah.
And then when you call LAFE,
Right.
look at that list and see if your name's on the list.
Sure.
And then if for some reason, something, God forbid, happened to them, we can get our
Yes.
cash. I think that's the point of
Yeah,
that.
okay, I'm the chairman of the group, I can call in, and they'll let me look at it as opposed to somebody else.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Now, here's the other thing about LAFE. You can only move the money to the account you pre-established. So I couldn't call up and go, hey, move $1 million to my account.
Yeah.
You
No,
move $1
right.
million, okay. And
Unless you're a baseball player for the Dodgers.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay,
Different
maybe
deal.
16 million.
But
But
only
see-
your translator.
So you can only move it one way to that.
to
Or,
the account that you named.
yeah.
There is it's true, in Orange County, there was a guy in the Element District, and he had siphoned off $16 million over a period of 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
Somehow creating these little things and so forth. So anyway, no matter what, there's always a possibility. So Jane, if you get a new car, we're gonna.
Yeah.
call it.
Okay, so we will change this word from manage to approve. It sounds like was the suggestion.
Yeah,
That's
that's
fine.
great.
Okay. Any other proposed changes?
Are any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? Modifications to our financial policies.
Actually, I do have a question.
Mhm.
The funds that we're putting in, are they school by school by school, or is it roads education monies?
Rose education.
And so when we do get earnings from these funds, how is that apportioned once it comes back?
I believe it would be booked as revenue to the home office.
Mhm.
And then the home office, we would.
Oh,
work-
spreads.
Work with our
Distribute.
auditors to determine, make sure that whatever formula we use to allocate it
Because all of our money is that way, but for the Riverside money, right? That's a separate deal. No,
The revenue or the expenses?
no, our cash on hand, doesn't Riverside kind of hold it back? They have a separate deal, right?
Well, San Diego and Riverside
both.
both have county treasury accounts that we maintain cash in there when we can. So we do have different protocols for transferring money from the Riverside versus the San Diego due to the Galaxy financial system.
But in generally, when money's put in there, like we get paid
We
for
get
P1 or whatever,
Yeah.
we just pull it out and put it into the roads account. I got it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just the mechanisms are just
Got
different. But to Steve's question, when we have pivot-wide expenses, our salaries, things like that, it is the expenses allocated per ADA. So I would think our auditors would say revenue should also be allocated per ADA.
Thank you.
But we would need to work with them on
Yeah,
just to make sure.
specifically what they
that
want.
Whatever. form.
Sometimes if, we have overall expenses, like for an attorney, you gotta figure out how much you just pay that bill.
Yeah, but it gets,
isn't
but
related-
the expense
it is not
does get,
related to-
but it does get all expenses get allocated, if they're pivot-wide expenses, and that would be, it does get allocated as an expense per ADA to each site. Because it's not fair that North Bay pays for all of our legal fees, right? That would be an example, right?
Right.
It gets allocated per ADA, unless it's specific to a site, which it rarely is. Well, like lawsuits is specific to a
I
site.
could say a lot of stuff is.
Yeah, lawsuits
Trying
are.
to go back to
Advice
ADA is crazy.
isn't. Like, we're meeting on a specific student case of it's suspension and expulsion, and that is specific to North
Mine,
Bay.
but mine.
I'm gonna do the same thing.
Mine's out of power. I died.
You're not gonna lose that.
I
Patricia,
died.
will you help me as well?
Yes.
I died.
I will die, sorry. Address the situation.
Anyway,
Yeah, I do too.
Can't lose, I guess.
Okay, are there members of the public that would like to speak? I'm surprised it's taken us 14 years to think about this.
That's a
We
lot.
got other- we got other-
I know, it's a lot. Oh my gosh.
It's an issue that we had the opposite problem for a while.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's fair. That's why.
Yeah, we're-
You're right.
What did it make?
That's why. You're right.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think Ralph, you've taken a leadership position on this. I appreciate it. Are there members of the public that would like to speak on this item? 4.5. Seeing none, hearing none. Ralph, why don't you make a motion?
I will
approve
make a
since you,
motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by OJ. Thank you. Any further discussions? Okay, this is great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, move it. Great. Okay, so this item 4.6, 7, 8, and 9 are the second interim budget ratifications for our sites. Liz? you
Yes. So the forecast that I presented a little bit ago is in line with these budget reports that were submitted in the middle of March. So the second interim budget reports are based on year-to-date actuals through the end of January. So we have to close the financials for January, and then we revise our forecast for current year and to subsequent years. And each school is reporting a positive certification, meaning that we anticipate being able to meet all of our financial obligations at each school for this year and the next 2 years. And so, yeah, these were submitted by January 15th, March 15th. So this would be a ratification of the reports that were submitted.
Okay, any questions from board members? None? Okay, any member of the public wish to speak on items 4, 6, 7, 8, or 9? Hearing none and seeing none, I take it. Then I'll ask for a motion to approve our interim budget reports, and the record will reflect independent votes on each.
So moved.
Thank you, Pat. Second, Steve, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda. So we have a consent agenda of minutes, check registers for Galaxy and EdTech. Are there any questions from board members on the consent agenda? Hearing none, any member of the public wish to speak on the consent agenda? None? Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
OJ, thank you. Second, Ralph. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. Then we will move into closed session. We have 2 closed session items: a conference with labor negotiators, Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designee Jenny Gaskell, executive director, discussing all unrepresented employees, and we have also performance evaluation, Government Code Section 54957, executive director. So we will take a break and then reconvene in closed session in here. Okay, we've come out of closed session. There is no reportable action. So our next meeting of the board will be Saturday, June 15th.
Sorry, this is wrong.
Yeah, at 8:30 here at Pivot Charter School. And we're adjourned. Thank you.